Question number 2.
When will your babysitter be here?
Dad?
Jeez.
Question number
Come
2
on, son.
is what is the generic list of validation questions you almost always ask yourself about any startup idea? I think I'm going to hand this one off to someone who has run a fund and started 8 companies with like 5 successful exits. So, John, what are the questions you ask yourself?
Well, number one, you shouldn't be always asking yourself this. You should pick an idea and go and run with it until it fails. I'm probably a pretty unique scenario in that I have started multiple successful things. The idea of a serial entrepreneur is it's a lot more glamorous. You're not Elon Musk. You're not Steve Jobs, etc. But anyway, so to validate the idea, first you have to start with, are you solving a real problem? And the easiest way to answer that is to actually have the problem yourself. So I say that, and I've a lot of the problems I've solved have not actually been problems, nor have they been one that I've actually had. Like cowboy boots, I built a $100 million business selling cowboy boots, never owned a pair.
That was arbitrage, though. That was you taking a competitive advantage on something that you were an early mover on.
Right. So I mean, I think if you go read everyone else's, it's have a problem and solve it, and I think that's important. I mean, a lot of smart people say that, but it's never really been honestly the way I've approached something. I always start with the customer and work its way backwards. So if you see an opportunity to acquire customers in an affordable way, that's a really good first metric for me. Whether it's the first thing you look at evaluating a startup idea or the last one, it has to be a go, no-go litmus test of whether you actually start that business. So customer acquisition in a profitable, affordable way is one. Number 2 is the gross margin, contribution margin on a per customer basis. If you're, paying people $20 to give away $10 bills, you can give away a lot of $10 bills, but you lose a lot of money doing it. So you have to back into how much money you make on a per transaction basis, the gross margin.
Yeah, so I want to comment on that really quickly, because I was having a conversation, the audit call that I run on Wednesdays with e-commerce people. There was a stock company that we were auditing, and they've got a $70 AOV, and they're
70?
really 70, and they're really struggling with Facebook arbitrage, finding new audiences, and this is the exact conversation we had with them, because a $70 AOV is very low.
It costs you like $5 or $6 to make them, though.
Yes, it does. But the thing I was telling him is that in the Facebook environment right now, if you're under a $100 AOV, you're really going to struggle. Like you're feeling the effects of being arbitraged out of a system that is now becoming mature, and it's becoming a fully priced system.
Unless the third variable you look at, right? So the third variable is lifetime purchases. So Dollar Shave Club, boom, right? I just came right in because you're exactly right. You tossed that up for me. That was easy. But if you look at Dollar Shave Club, what's their AOV? $10 a month? But how many months do you stay hooked? So how the number of purchases on that, let's say you stay for 5 years, geez, they've got 60 purchases off of you. And they don't make a ton of gross margin dollars on a per transaction basis, but if you look at the lifetime value of the customer, it's pretty dramatic. And if you look at how much they spend to acquire a customer, it's low, because their viral videos were, at least in the beginning, I mean, they're spending a ton of money on paid media now.
Dollar Shave Club has really struggled.
They have.
Losing the virality.
Well, I've heard Unilever's written that down, right? Didn't you tell me that the other day, that Unilever wrote down the $1 billion? I think they paid $1 billion to get them out of the market where their legacy brands would survive and thrive. Hopefully, our buddies there at Harry's find a very similar exit. They're crushing it from everything I know about Harry's, which is slightly more upscale. It's a higher AOV. It's the same subscription model. They're actually distributed in Target, which is
really
pretty
smart.
Yeah, it really is.
They took that Bonobos approach of moving into higher value, like Nordstrom's, things like that, to brand to a higher echelon of customer.
Yeah. So those three, I mean, you look at customer acquisition costs. Is there a targetable audience that you can acquire? Well, number 2 would be your contribution margin, your gross margin. What does that look like? And then number 3, and take these all together, number 3 would be the number of lifetime purchases for the customer. So optimizing those. If you can't answer those three with positives, those are all three litmus tests. Don't do the business.
Yeah. So I want to ask you kind of a follow-up question to this, and put your pure investor hat on, not actually running the company. So I know you disagree with Peter Thiel.
Just say no. That's the investor. No, no.
I know you disagree with a lot of what Peter Thiel says, and agree with a lot of it as well.
Politically.
But yeah, one thing that he says in 0 to 1 is the question that he asks almost every startup founder that he meets with is, what is something that you believe to be a truth that 99% of the market doesn't? And I find that an interesting question. But you as an investor, I think there's a difference in, a lot of people read Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. They read the top 0.1% of investors who are investing in technologies and businesses that have $100 million valuations without a product yet. For an investor, for the majority of investors, when you're looking at a company and you're looking at the metrics, are you looking at, am I going to see an order of magnitude return on my dollars in 5 years? Like, is that what it is, or what does it look like for you?
Well, on a pre-product basis, there's got to be something there. The team plus the technology. I mean, look at Magic Leap. Evidently, they actually have a product, and some people have seen it. And whenever you see it, your wallet gets really loose and you start throwing money at them. Oculus Rift, kind of the same thing. I mean, what was that, a $2.4 billion acquisition from Facebook? It was pre-consumer product. But I think both of those, I mean, they're both in the AR, VR space, and you look at them and you go, of course this is going to work, right? Well, Tesla didn't have a car when they raised a ton of money. Yeah, so pre-product is I would never personally do it, but if someone would have come to me with HQ, for instance, if someone would have come to me with that idea, pre-product, absolutely, been all over it. So there's just there's certain things that stick out that you would do just based on the thing. These are the founders of Vine, for Pete's sake. They've done this before. Yeah. And you show me a proof of concept of this, of course I'm going to write this check.
And you show the entrepreneur, because ultimately you're investing in the entrepreneur, not the business of that.
Right. And if you're watching this, you probably have not started and sold a business for hundreds of millions of dollars. So you're not that person. You can't walk up pre-product and get someone like me to write you a check. So we need some more signs and signals of quality before we'll write it. So it's I would never. I think most of those are flops or duds. I mean, who knows? HQ was invested in some really smart people, but the valuation, they're making $0 a day. So how do you put 100
spending a lot of money?
They're spending a lot of money too. But how do you put $100 million valuation on it? It's guesswork. That company is either worth $1 million, so well below $100 million, or it's worth $10 billion. I mean, that's the bet that those investors are taking at that valuation. You got to remember, they're putting preferred money into this. So they're making a bet. We're going to put $20 million on the balance sheet. It wasn't that much. Call it $10 million on the balance sheet. Well, assuming the company sells for more than $10 million, the investor gets all their money back. It's really the founder that takes a lot of risk on that scenario. So
perfect.